Have you ever wondered what makes America the quote best country in the world? Well, today I'm going to be discussing two elements that makes America great. I'm MrShowTym and you are watching the Showcast. Welcome back to the MrShowTym Showcast. There are two elements, very pivotal, vital, critical elements that make America the greatest country in the world, that make America great. And the first one being the US dollar being the reserve currency of the world. Okay? The US dollar is the global reserve currency. And as you know, money, as they say, money talks, bullshit walks. Okay? Despite the fact that the British pound is the strongest currency, but technically America has greased the tires and jostled for position to have their currency the global currency. They have a huge say-so into the global markets, the stock markets, whatnot. Everyone uses the US dollar. I mean, even the dollar sign, the little S with the little cross lines running through it. The most popular currency symbol in the world. It has been made cool. When you buy caps, you have the US dollar thingy, etc. What have you. So therefore, if they have a huge say-so as to how other currencies trade in terms of commodities and other trading resources such as gold, copper, etc., what have you. It's only up until recently you have other nations that said they want to down tools and say, you know what, we're enough of this. America, we've had enough. Okay? We're going to band together and we're going to create our own trading currency to compete with the US dollar, because they're tired of being, getting a bad deal, the short end of the stick, so to speak. I'm not saying they're wrong. I understand their why, but me personally, I'm not too comfortable with communist countries such as China, Russia, growing in terms of gravitas, financial gravitas, because now we're paving way into a global digital currency. The dystopian utopia. Sorry, it's not even a utopia. The dystopian future that we've seen in movies. With the movie Total Recall, Terminator, The Matrix, Demolition Man. You get the gist. It's steadfast becoming a reality. It seems as though either way, we're headed for it, and there's not much we can do, because with America, the Trump administration's steadfast at becoming tyrants, deporting anti-Semites, those who criticize Israel, and on the flip side, we have the BRICS nations that are gaining more and more supporters, more countries joining in. Now, apparently there's 10 countries in the BRICS nations. And my very own being one of the initial 5 prominent ones. So on one side of the spectrum, you can say that the BRICS nation is here to combat the tyrannical US dollar, which I understand. But at the same time, South Africa being a westernized democracy, a first world English speaking country, us getting in bed with communists, I don't want to, have us trading and having to bow down to a bunch of communists. That's not what we want neither. South Africa and America have similar values, and that is democracy, right? So, but that's neither here nor there. Things are never black and white. It's never binary, even though currently it may seem, but it isn't. There's always gray areas. I don't like the idea of a global digital currency, because if you act out of pocket, just like how what's happening in England, you tweet the wrong thing about the Muslim immigrants over there, you get thrown in the slammer. Who's to say that that's not going to become a reality with the BRICS nations? So I'm against the BRICS nations. I'd much rather have us fix the problem with the US government officials. I'm talking about us trying so hard to pry the leech, the blood-sucking leech that is Israel, off of America's back by releasing the Jeffrey Epstein files. But that's enough. That's enough about that. The biggest one can say that this second element is even more powerful and more critical than the financial aspect. Because understand something, the global elites, they don't need money per se. Sorry, excuse me, scratch that. They print money. They don't have money. They own money. They print it. They decide the stock market value for a lot of countries. Now, you can say that, the performance of markets, stock exchange markets are, that's a variable, so fine. But ultimately, the people who print money, they don't have a fixed amount on their bank accounts. They own banks. Okay? This particular second element, I'm talking about media, the power of media. Propaganda is the cornerstone of every great civilization. In order for a civilization to remain powerful, it needs to ensue propaganda through its zeitgeist control machine, through its propaganda arms. What am I talking about? I have noticed that America takes media very, very seriously. Let me take off my glasses for this one, because now we're getting to, the bones through the meat or whatever. America takes media very, very seriously. Their media networks are the most prominent and the most famous and the most globally recognized in the world. I'm talking about your CNN. I'm talking about your... Okay, Fox News is not global. CBS. Okay, some of these companies, they operate only like domestically, nationally, not internationally. But CNN is the most prominent media network of them all. Okay, they are global. They have global branches. They have CNN India, CNN Africa, CNN Europe, I think. So they're global. Their propaganda arm reaches out into other countries to spew their propaganda, to shape narratives, to sort of like grease the tires, to justify whatever actions, whether it be political, military, okay, that falls under political, media greases the tires to justify certain wars we've seen. The global, the debaucherous pullout out of Afghanistan, leaving some military veterans behind and some weapons for the Taliban to just swoop in, and yeah, we all know how that proved to be very catastrophic. September 9/11. Oh, it's the Iranians or Iraq. It's the jihadi Islamic terrorist groups. Have you noticed that in every Hollywood movie, who are your terrorists stereotypically? Jihadi terrorists, Muslims, ISIS. Whenever you think the word terrorist, you think of a Muslim, a Muslim person. When we talk about a spy, the first thing that comes to your mind is, oh, he has to be Russian. Do you know a movie Salt starring Angelina Jolie that basically depicts Russian spies and sleeper agents and whatnot? In pretty much every Hollywood movie, if it's a spy, Russian spy, have they been saying about Trump throughout ever since his first term in office from 2016? Russia Gate, Russian collusion, Russia. You see, news is not there to inform you and give you on-the-go, honest reporting. No, why should they? They don't care about that. The news is not there to give you news. They're there to prepare you, to soften up to the idea of whatever agenda they're about to push next. They're about to prepare your minds. They marinate your minds to the idea so that when the time comes, you'll easily acquiesce. Because you'll be like, oh, yeah, I remember. You remember the movie Salt starring Angelina Jolie? Oh, it's those Russian spies. Have you ever seen a movie with any Jewish spies? Any Jewish spies at all? Such movies don't exist. Yet, it's funny enough, the US government convicted a Jewish spy that goes by the name of Jeffrey Epstein, along with his female accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. Don't you find that odd? One of the biggest stories ever in American politics is a Jewish spy, a Mossad agent, hired by the Mossad intelligence agency. Yet in movies, they wanna constantly have you think of Russia. Think about that. Propaganda is the cornerstone of every civilization. Now, like I said, these media networks are powerhouses in the global market. So, for example, you look at YouTube with its influences, with the most popular and most influential voices being American. That's not a coincidence. All popular influencers, the most prominent ones, are American. Now you can say, of course, YouTube is American thingy. So okay, fine. But it's not really that may be the case, but it's not by coincidence. The Americans have no interest in promoting someone else who's not American, at least not to the very top. We talk about people like Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, We all look up to these people because media-wise, we've been psyoped for better or worse. Doesn't matter at this point. Ultimately, we've been psychologically manipulated to admire them, of which I do. They've earned their colors. I'm not trying to. I'm not saying this to discredit them. You know why? Because two things can be true at once. Two things can be true at once. So you're telling me that there's no other person who's not American who doesn't have, you know, based talking points and red pill things red pill bombs to drop. Of course not. The media, YouTube, for example, would much rather, let me say, it favors someone who lives in America, unless, of course, they engage in a multi-millionaire marketing scheme, of which that's also possible. Again, I'm not saying it's binary. Yes, there's some other people who've gained some notoriety through multi-millionaire marketing schemes. Okay, yeah, fine, that also exists. But I'm talking primarily. I saw a stat that says the YouTube platform is now around 500 billion US dollars. That's hell of a lot. That's way more than Twitter, because Twitter was estimated to be around 44 billion, although Elon Musk was swindled. The value was overestimated, only to find out that it was around $22 billion. But yeah, the lesson here is media is powerful because so many people, I mean, here's the thing. We look up to America because we consume American TV above whatever local national TV program you have if you are non-American. So you have your whatever shows that you have in your own country, and then you have American TV, or at least that's the case here in South Africa. I can't speak for all countries. So America is the golden pot, is the pot of gold in terms of an audience. So in other words, if you're able to secure an American audience, you pretty much have, a lot of people. You are relevant. Media is, here's how you know that media is powerful. Because I've thought about this. Why is it that if the powers that be, or as I like to call them, the Agent Smiths of this matrix, if they can seemingly do whatever they want, and what people on the ground say doesn't matter, why are they trying so hard to convince you of something first to fulfill an agenda? Why do they silence dissenting voices? Why? Maybe it's because really for truly, technically they can do whatever they want. However, there is something called an uprising, of which dissenting voices inspire. So like an uprising that leads to a revolution, and then chaos ensues. For better or worse, doesn't matter. Depending on the agenda. So it just goes to show that there is a chance on the people's side. The powers that be, the Agent Smiths, they have a lot of power, but they don't have all power. Media is so powerful. We here in South Africa, we are framed a certain way by popular, powerful media structures. So, for example, in the year 2010, they framed Africa in a very stereotypical fashion, talking about, is FIFA sure they want to host the FIFA World Cup in the primitive bushes of Africa? Only for the world to come here, and Australia, they wanted to snatch it from us in the 11th hour. And then we hosted the tournament successfully. The world came here, tourists from other places in the world, they came here and they got to experience South Africa. Now, what annoys me is they still insist on referencing South Africa specifically, not just Africa as a continent, but South Africa specifically as a third world country, which makes me laugh. You see, the media preys on people's ignorance. It is easy to believe that South Africa is a small third world country because we're in Africa. Most other African countries aren't doing so well economically. Sure, I give you that. But South Africa is the anomaly. Okay? Most people don't even know the three elements that determine whether or not a country is either first world or third world. I'll let you know. The three elements that decipher a country that is first world or third world is, in no particular order, the type of government system, the judicial structure. Is it a communist regime? Is it a socialist? Do they operate more on a religious front, like the Arab nations? Or are they westernized democracies, democratic republics, where you have something called the Bill of Human Rights? I once met tourists, and I was telling them more about South Africa and whatnot, and somewhere along the line, I told them about how we have something called the Bill of Human Rights that consists of freedom of speech, freedom of association, okay, whatnot, and so forth and so forth. These tourists looked at me as if I was an alien. You know when a dog is confused, it tilts its head like this, like what? They asked me they said the Bill of Human Rights, what is that? And they were from Europe, by the way. They were from Denmark. Another one was from Germany. Another one was from, what's this country? What's the South American country? Chile. Yeah. They said to me, well, Bill of Human Rights, what is that? They don't even have the Bill of Human Rights in other countries. Which is why, look, if you are born in South Africa, if you're South African, you should thank God every single day because the Bill of Human Rights doesn't exist in other countries. Sure, it exists in America. They just call it something else. It also exists in Great Britain, the UK, or England, even though steadfast things are starting to change for the worst over there in the UK, arresting people for tweets, like I said. But, you get the type of government structure of which they operate, which is why I laugh at people who say that, oh, South Africa's government is amongst the worst. Sir, have you traveled? Have you traveled? Dricus du Plessis. Look, shout out to your UFC championship run, but it's not to say that Dricus du Plessis was wrong. It's just that he was less than accurate. He was half right, half wrong at the same time. Yes, the ANC is engaging in some foul. I agree with them on that. I'm against the ANC. I support the Democratic Alliance. But to say that our government is amongst the worst, look at what's happening in America, sir. Look at what's happening in other third world communist countries like China. Like I said, if Dricus du Plessis was from another country and he said that about their own government, if you're in Korea, you said that, oh, Korea government is very corrupt, you're getting arrested forever. Okay? Here in South Africa, we have the rights to criticize our own government and not get thrown in jail. Okay? So he's half right, but most people here in South Africa are just, very knee-jerky because of this frustration of the government, of which I understand. But let us be accurate, or let us try to be accurate. Another thing, infrastructure and development. Here in South Africa, we have multiple modes of transport. America, they have Amazon. We have takealot.com. We have infrastructure, technological development, whatnot. Multiple modes of transport, like I said. Our GDP. Our GDP is of a first world country. Because not only do we import goods, we also export goods. We have raw materials such as gold, copper, diamonds, of which we export. Okay? Third world countries don't export, not really. So those are the three elements that decipher whether or not a country is first world or third world. Most people didn't know this. They just repeat whatever the zeitgeist control machine tells them. Like a bunch of robots, like a bunch of programmable bots. And I'm here to set the record straight. Media is powerful. Remember what happened in 2020? Yeah. They instilled fear in people. People got into fights and arguments. Okay? Media is powerful. Which is why people get arrested and, they get wrongfully persecuted like your Russell Brands and Andrew Tates of the world. Why? Because they're dissenting voices, which means media narratives matter. You can say they matter more than money. But that's all I have to say for now. If you're watching this far, thank you so much for watching. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what makes America great. Because, look, another thing, America and South Africa are not too far apart. Not geographically, but in terms of our prestige. Here in South Africa, we have three major cities: Joburg, Cape Town, Durban. The rest of the country is middle class, lower class, rural. Okay? And the same thing is the same case for America as well. In America, they have pretty much three, maybe four, but let's just say three major cities. That is Miami, New York, Times Square, the Big Apple, and Los Angeles, California, Beverly Hills. And the rest of their flyover states is just rural, urban. Yes, they have dirty shacks and poor rural neighborhoods as well. But they don't show you that. Because America has a way of marketing. They put their best foot out forward. They put their best foot forward. When you see Hollywood movies, you see Megatropolis, the shiny bright lights of New York, and celebrities, painting America as this greater than life utopia. And then they frame other countries as poor, third world, and primitive. I advise you to travel, especially when it comes to South Africa, calling us a third world. If you hear anyone calling South Africa a third world country, I want you to point at them and laugh. Show them pictures of Cape Town. Show them pictures of Durban. Show them pictures of Sandton. Because in other movies and your UNICEF adverts, we've seen this time and time again. With just 50 cents a day, you too can feed this little starving monkey, little young African child who's starving, suffering from scurvy. That's the stereotype. I've hopped on live streams with Americans where, they see me, they see this going on. And they're shocked. They're taken back. They're like, "Is you sure you're from Africa?" I'm like, "Yo, why not?" Why? You see, I'll tell you why. Because they're expecting a certain image. And what you see right now, it's something they didn't typically expect. Because the zeitgeist control machine has pounded in their brains that Africa looks a certain way and African sounds and talks a certain way, and then they hear me open my mouth, I'm not what they expect. So, I think South Africa would do itself a favor if we were to compete in the media sphere. We too can become as great, if not better. We can say even better than America. If we compete in terms of the media industry, of which we don't have powerful media structures. Our news networks aren't even globally renowned. ENCA, it's only local. We certainly do not have the entertainment industry in our grasp. Oh no, that title belongs to America. WWE, cartoons, Mr. Beast, PewDiePie. We can't compete yet unless we have some billionaires who come up with an alternative YouTube copycat. Of course, it's going to take some time, or at the very least, it might have to, certain events, the stars have to align for us to be, the next big thing in the spotlight. But until then, these are the two elements that make America great. So, if you're watching this far, for real this time, thank you so much for watching. And remember, the Matrix has you. Follow the white rabbit. And don't fall for the psyops. Thanks so much for watching. Cheers.
Away.